Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 283. Oh, yeah, we're going to say that again. Which RMM do you use and why? I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by Ninja RMM, the simple-to-use remote monitoring and management solution. This is all the tools you need to be in one place to provide preventative maintenance for your clients. Try it free at ninjarmm.com/10off. And also by Malwarebytes TechBench, a comprehensive partnership program for repair shops looking to boost margins and grow their business. This includes a portable tool set to help you diagnose, remediate, and secure PCs. Malwarebytes TechBench, built for technicians by technicians. Sign up today at malwarebytes.com/techbench. Let me introduce the co-host. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. How you doing, John?
Aloha, Jeff. Good to be back.
Awesome to have you. And joining us right next to him is Rick Smith from Renactus Technology. How you doing, Rick?
Doing good. Doing good. Glad to be here.
All right. Good to have you. All right. Let's go ahead and start off with our normal tips and stories. And John, I know you love to kick it off, so I'm going to give it to you.
Start with the best. Why mess with the rest? Let's get it rolling. So I've been gone for a little bit, so I got a little bit of a list here. First of all, I talked to a lot of guys. I've been off the show for a couple of weeks, but I've had good conversations with a couple of guys, so thank you very much. And I'm going to be at the ASCII IT Success Summit this coming week in Ann Arbor. I'll put a link in the show notes and in the chat. If anybody else is happening to be going or happens to go, make sure you poke me or look for me at the show so we can hook up. Number 2 on the list, Overseer. Our friends over at Arachnus had a big Overseer upgrade on June 18th. Probably the biggest change there was multiple logins. So Jeff, if you and I are working on the same network and I had all the Arachnus gear, I could give you a login so you could manage that network as well. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Part of the conversations I've had with a couple guys while I've been gone is about Cloudberry and asking questions about that. But he knows this, but Cloudberry actually has a free version that you can use. And it's pretty full featured as far as that goes. And you can back up just about any data source like Cloudberry does. The only real limit is you can't do any encryption with it. And it has a 200 gigabyte limit on the backup size. But I'll put a little link into the show note because I wasn't very familiar with that either. But I thought that was pretty cool. And after I took a look at it, it'd be a great tool if you're considering maybe jumping on the Cloudberry bandwagon. Let's see what else we got for this week. Oh, ran into a new utility called WizTree, WIZTREE. Basically, this is a great replacement for, what was it called? Durstat. Is that one? Am I saying that right, Jeff? Rick, do you guys remember that one?
It sounds familiar, yes. Yeah, I believe
a graphical look at a hard drive. Basically, WizTree is actually the same thing, maybe a little bit faster, and it has been updated. It's a recent product, so I don't think WinDurstat. I don't think that it's been upgraded for years. So something to take a look at, and I put that in the show notes in the chat as well. And my last one had a couple of HIPAA talks while I was gone too with a couple of people. And they were asking me about security risk assessments. Well, I'm going to put a link in the show notes and the chat about security risk assessments and a free tool that the government puts out to help you get started on doing a risk assessment. So that's up my little list.
Awesome, man. And let's move on over to you, Rick. And what do you got for us this week?
Okay, no list like John, not that comprehensive, but I do have, I guess not a story, but just something we all know that I'm just going to keep emphasizing is backup. Tell them what the price, approximate price is going to be. It's going to be expensive. I don't necessarily want to get into exactly what was on the drives, but it was very personal information for both clients. Both clients, Gilware tells me, the rotational issues, they can't recover anything from it. So, one person had to explain this to, and she bawled out crying. I felt bad in this thing. So I just say to everyone, if you have any clients, residential, business, whatever, emphasize backing up, because in the end, there's nothing you can do. And having to deliver that bad news, it's not your fault. It's nothing you did wrong, but it still sucks.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough. until you run into those situations. Now, have you thought about sending it out to anybody that actually pulls the drives apart? And I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that could rebuild that drive. I know it would be quite expensive.
Gilware's pretty thorough.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they're not like 300 data recovery or something. They do the full part. They got the full clean room. They do it all.
Right.
So
And
they're like who's the big guys that I'm thinking of? The really expensive guys over in California, not on track. I'll think of it. Somebody in the chat.
So when you say non-rotational, what does that exactly mean?
He said the email actually said your hard drive revealed rotational scoring, which is a form of damage that makes data recovery impossible.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. I think essentially, and with the one, right, and with the one client, she told me, I said, have you heard any clicking or having any problems? She said, yeah, for about maybe 2 weeks or so, it's been doing that. So I just kept restarting and it would work. And I was like, okay, I don't want to say, okay, there's your problem, but that's really what happened. So, and it's crazy. I use Gilware a lot when I can't pull data. I tried several methods, even going through Linux. If I can't pull it, I'll send it to Gilware, and they've been very successful. So to have 2 in 1 week was just, it was amazing. So it's just, I stressed to the client. She bought a new machine. One of them bought a new computer. I immediately told her, hey, we should put backup software in there. We put it on. I recommended Backblaze for that. And, she got it on. She's got it on now, but 10 years worth of work that's gone.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard part.
That's a heartbreaker. And it was drive savers I was thinking of.
Okay. Yep. Once you scratch those drives, once you scratch the platters, it's not a real good chance, especially if it's been, sometimes if there's one gouge or something like that, you can still recover data from it. But if it had been acting up for a couple weeks and probably just gouging that drive, you're pretty much.
So what we're talking about is physical damage on the
That's
actual
what it sounds like. Yeah.
So
now that you read the email, that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like there's physical damage to it where.
You're right, Rick. Two in a week. I mean, I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to joke myself, but 2 in a week. Let's just leave it at that.
What brand was the drives?
Seagate, both of them.
I've been telling people for years, stop using Seagate.
The thing is, and I'm not going to bad mouth Seagate. What I appreciated about Gilware was the engineer called me personally to explain it to me. He explained, basically, he gave me geek speak that I would give to my client. So he had to dumb it down to me a little bit to understand. But I appreciated the call. But he said, this is a common problem we have with Seagate drives, which I was like, wow.
I've had Seagate drives back in the day. They were solid, man. They were cheaper than Western Digital. They were solid drives. And then all of a sudden they got real cheap and drives were failing prematurely, like within the first year. And it was like, nah. So yeah. All right.
Remind me, am I thinking of this right? They had some sort of big firmware issue a few years back, right? And
yes.
It seems like ever since then.
I mean, profits, but at the same time, I blame us as a community because we're so cheap and we want the cheapest, best product out there. Sometimes it's better to pay a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit more to get that better quality that's going to last you the test of time.
And especially as a tech, because if you sell those cheaper drives, they come back to you. Those cheaper drives, they come back to you. Yeah. And you end up getting screwed. So it's just an extra $10. It's really is about the difference in them, maybe $10, $20. Again, if you go to Blacks or something like that's going to be a little more expensive, but you do that, the chances of those drives coming back to you with a problem are slim. So you got a happy customer, and that's all that really counts when you're doing all of that.
Right. Very good points. Well, that is a bummer about that. All right. So I've got a couple stories. First, don't procrastinate. As we all know, we get busy in our lives and we tend to procrastinate. As I've gotten older, understanding that the busier I get, the older I get, life doesn't seem to slow down. And there are certain things that I just don't care to do anymore. So everybody has heard me for the last couple years complaining about the terabyte of data plus that I use every month using Comcast.
Where are you complaining? Never mind.
And so because of that, I knew for the last year I've had it on my to-do list. I'm not joking. To basically call Comcast and get a better deal. Find out what the unlimited was going to cost, blah, 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 blah. And so this past week, I actually called them partially because on the 17th of this month, which is June, I had already crested a terabyte of data and I was redoing my computer, which means it's going to reassess the backups. I'm going to move files up and down, OneDrive. I'm pulling files now for games, etc. It was going to be a lot of data. And I'm like, this is going to be a huge overage month. So I called them up and said, all right, I need to get unlimited. What do I need to do? And surprisingly, the guy told me, well, it's $25. I'm like, okay, $25, I can do that. I said, but I'm thinking about getting rid of my TV to kind of cover the cost and just go with internet only, which I used to have for years. So he said, well, I can't do that here, but he said, I can send you over to the retention department. Okay, great. So he gets done. Now my bill, mind you, is going to be $198 a month for cable, a little bit of cable TV, mostly the fastest internet. Now, mind you, also at the same time, I'm supposedly paying an extra $10 for the 150 gigabytes or 150 megabytes per second speeds, which I haven't gotten. I get about 125, even though I'm paying an extra 10 for the speed boost. Well, the problem was they switched it halfway between when I first signed up for the program and for whatever reason, it just never went across. So no big deal. So anyways, I said, okay, I'm thinking about getting rid of my TV. She's like, well, she goes, the internet's going to be, I think it was for the 150 megabytes per second, 89 plus $25 for the unlimited. So you're looking at 115. Okay. She said, let me see what other packages I have. All right, go ahead. So she ends up finding me a package where I can basically keep pretty much the same cable basic digital starter package that I had for TV, which I can get rid of in a year if I don't want it anymore. But for right now, might as well keep it because I got the bill down to with unlimited and 150 megabytes per second, better speed, $118. So went from $198 to $118. That's why I say don't procrastinate, because I've spent way too much money over the past year to 2 years on this stupid internet service. And you bet your bottom dollar, man, I'm going to get into now here's a funny story. I'm going to get in the top 0.0001%. But anyways, the guy that I originally talked to and asked for the unlimited, he told me, and I don't know how long you work for the company, but he's like, man, he goes, this is only the second time I've ever heard of this. Which I said, really? He said, yeah. He goes, the other guy, he was a gamer and this and that and the other. I said, well, yeah, I got like 3 gamers in the house. Plus everybody streams everything. We don't really watch cable TV. And so he was like, yeah, well, I guess he goes, that would do it. So anyways, now I will stop complaining about my 1 terabyte limit that is basically unlimited now for $25 extra.
Which really makes no sense that they just want the extra $25 because now you can go up to 30 terabytes to have more ones and zeros.
Exactly. So, yep. I know. So that goes. Go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you saying?
The point of that too is I've read somewhere that these, they're getting hit hard from streaming, and people don't want to watch. Like you have the basic cable, you go down to the basic cable because people don't want it. Why would I pay the cable company for all these channels where I can get them somewhere else? So the cable company's way of making up for that now is hitting you with that cap. So if you're streaming, they're going to hit you with that cap, and then an extra $25, which probably cost them $12 to send you all those channels anyway. That's where they're making more money anyway. So,
here's the bad thing about that though. It's actually the normal price is $50 a month. But because I'm getting a deal, I'm getting it for half. So this is only a 12-month deal. So in 12 months, what I'll probably do is get rid of the TV, just go down to the largest, fastest internet I can have possibly at the time and add on the unlimited, whatever that is. Now, hopefully Comcast reps aren't listening because it still makes me mad, and I will still talk bad about their gouging, which I think is ridiculous. So that goes into my second part of my story, and that is my computer rebuild. Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about me rebuilding my computer, having some time to do it. And I've basically spent the last 8 days while I'm working full time and doing other things. And I replaced my primary drive with an NVMe drive, which I had wanted to play around with, but just never did. And thank you, Brad Torrey, for helping me spend $400 I didn't want to spend. I had a 1 terabyte Crucial MX500, John, that I was going to use, a 1 terabyte, good drive, right? It was much less than that. I had it sitting on my shelf. As a matter of fact, it's still sitting there. Brad says, "Hey, you should try an NVMe drive." I said, "Okay." I said, let me think about that. So I looked at it. I said, oh, whatever. Okay. So I bought it. I put it in the system, started redoing my system. And John has asked me this question. He says, "What do you think?" And to be honest with you, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of difference between a regular SSD and an NVMe, other than the numbers are higher with Samsung Magician between the 850 Pro I had and the 970 Evo that I have. But real world scenario, and again, like I was telling John, I'm a complicated guy. I have stuff everywhere on this computer for podcasting, for gaming, for doing this, for doing that. And the problem is, it could be my particular setup. I mean, when you look at, I have 10 USB ports on the back of my computer because that's what my motherboard came with, because I wanted the ability to plug all these different things in. So again, I'm a very complicated guy. So maybe that's kind of what I'm seeing. Is it a little faster? It seems a little faster. And maybe there's some tweaks and things that I can do over time where I would go. I don't know that it's like this lightning fast it's not like going from a spinning drive to an SSD. It's like going from an SSD to a slightly faster SSD, maybe in some scenarios. So time will tell. I've only had it running for the last 8 days. It's running solid and everything seems fine. So the nice thing about it too is I can put more stuff on the 1 terabyte drive versus the 512 that I had, and keep my games and stuff all on the same drive. That's what I'm going to try to do. So I still have a secondary drive for all my data files, this show, audio, video, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, those are my 2 stories.
Was that the 870 Evo that you got, Jeff?
970.
970. Thank you.
Yep. 970, which I don't understand where they come up with their naming nomenclatures, but whatever. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll get into our main topic. Our show today is brought to you by Ninja RMM, the easy-to-use, single-pane remote monitoring and management solution to help you become more efficient, more productive, and more profitable. Ninja RMM understands what you need to help your customers, which is why their RMM solution is integrated with tools you use every day. With Ninja RMM, you can have a faster fixed response time and offer preventative maintenance to your customers. Ninja RMM provides patch management, antivirus, email, SMS alerting. You can be up and running quickly with minimum training time. Everybody wants that, right? Plus, there are no contracts, so you can focus less on stress and more on your customers. Ninja RMM also offers things like TeamViewer for remote support, backup, Cloudberry, which we talked about earlier, and antivirus, things like WebRoot. Things that you're already using in your business, you can integrate it, watch it, and take care of it all from one dashboard. You have network visibility inside your RMM, easy to read dashboards, which I got to have or I'm not reading them, and a powerful device search to create custom queries and export the list to keep your customers up to date on the hard work you do for them. You got to let them know why they're paying you that money. You also have an executive style report showing important system metrics such as health score, software added or removed, hardware changes, and TeamViewer connections. Ninja RMM is offering Podnutz listeners a free 30-day trial, and when you decide to buy, a 10% discount. Take advantage of this offer. Go to ninjarmm.com/10off. And we want to thank Ninja for being a sponsor of this show. All right, so we are going to talk about, actually, it was the email we got, and I'm going to read the email, and this is going to lead us into our subject. It says, hello, Podnutz, the computer repair podcast family. I listen to you frequently. I'm looking to revisit starting after hours managed services. Which RMM do you use and why? I've been comparing Ninja and SolarWinds MSP, but I want to see what others would recommend for a person who is starting up from scratch again. A story for another time. Best regards, Sean. So we decided today we're going to talk about which RMM do we use and why. What are some of the things, maybe some of the features that we look for, some of the things that have worked, and maybe even some of the things that haven't worked. And we'll maybe even talk about what we would like to see inside these services to better take care of our customers. So, John, I'm going to throw it to you again. And why don't you kick it off?
I think this could be a common theme in this particular show, but I am a Ninja RMM user and a repair shopper, which I'm going to just say ticketing system user for now. But just to keep the intro brief, the main reason I chose Ninja, having used plenty of other products in the past. One, very easy to use. Two, since I came on board several years ago when Ninja was purely in alpha and beta, then left for a year and came back, they are continuously improving. And I would say the team over there has even ramped that up to where we're getting quarterly, not just improvements, but I would say very big add-ons to the product. Like we just got Cloudberry backup integration here would be one of the big ones that just came. And then finally, probably the most is a combination of two, but the biggest point, the reason I came back is re-engaging with them to possibly becoming a vendor. It was very clear that they were interested and at least had in place from my perspective that they were going to be a great partner for me. I was getting the response time that I wanted. I was getting the replies that I wanted and the integration where I felt they weren't just a vendor for me, but more of a partner. And finally, it would have been that a lot of the guys, the Podnutz family, use Ninja too, so it was easy for me to collaborate and get ideas from them as well. That's why I chose Ninja. Do you want to jump on the repair shopper bandwagon too at this time, Jeff, or you want to let Rick jump in on RMM first?
Yeah, let's let Rick jump in, and then we'll go on from there. So, Rick, what do you use and why?
Well, I'm in the same boat. I'm a Ninja RMM as well, and I've tried a couple. The first one I tried was way out of my league. I wasn't big enough for it. And that was SolarWinds. The original one, not the, what's the other one called? Crap. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, I can't think of it either. It used to be Hound Dog, and then it was, yeah. So I know where you're going, Rick.
Yeah. The one that is, that was the second one. That was the one they acquired, right? The SolarWinds acquired is the second one I used.
Enable?
And then, Enable, right. Enable was the first one I used. Enable was just way too big for me. It was too big for my company. So that was a mistake. And being locked into a contract for a year or something that didn't, so that was a mistake, but you live and you learn. Then I went to the Hound Dog one that's, what's it called now? Whatever their new Ninja, I mean, not Ninja, I'm sorry, their new SolarWinds product is.
Yeah, it's MSP.
That thing, right.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Let me type faster, I'll get back.
So I trialed it. At first, my thought is not busy, and I was used to all these busy dashboards. And I thought, hey, that means I'm doing something. Everything's popping all the time. I got all these things going on. Everything, something's happening. But I've come to really appreciate the simplicity of Ninja. And they have grown. There's been some things I've wanted to see that I see have come and that are coming. And it's interesting. Some of the products are products I'm already using, like Cloudberry. I'm already a Cloudberry user. So I'm going to have to switch over to get it all in the single pane of glass, quote unquote. But I've been very happy with them. They are very responsive. I had a couple of issues with some deployments and some things that didn't go right. And the service and support was excellent. They, email, follow up, got phone calls. We actually logged into a customer to the the system where I had the problem at, and they work with me on it. So I've been very happy. The response has been good, and they have a customer in me unless something majorly goes wrong.
Okay.
And that's just, believe it or not, it's just SolarWinds MSP.
Right.
So
okay.
we were overcomplicating that. But back to a couple of the comments you made. The pricing, at least for a guy my size, one of the things I liked about Ninja versus some other that I did is it's month to month. I don't have to commit. There's no annual commitment or try-year commitment. But to that point, and as they are saying in the chat a little bit, I don't want to say Ninja doesn't like it or like them, but it seems like they have a hard time getting it together and starting with guys that are small. I'm talking about 10, let's just say under 50 endpoints. They haven't sort of figured that out. Whereas either it's, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's not like they don't want them. It just seems like the pricing might be a little bit inconsistent, or they don't really have a plan where that fits. That's just what I'm hearing from other guys. Somebody in the chat mentioned that, but we also have a couple of buddies that we talked to too, Jeff and Rick, you know them as well, that are maybe considering the switch from SolarWinds. And they are both right around that 50 endpoint. At least now they actually have maybe more to put in there. But, you know, they say they're struggling with Ninja a little bit to get that. You know, it's not that they don't want to pay more or they won't pay more, but then there's just not that transition of, okay, I have 0 to 50. Now I'm over that. Where can we go, or how do we switch that?
And I think from that standpoint, John, is that I have always said this, and I've talked about companies for a long time, and I like tiered pricing. And what I mean by tiered pricing is you start off with the small guy, and then the small guy may be paying a little bit more, but as they ramp up and they get more endpoints, obviously the more volume you have, the better discount you get. This is old technology we're talking about. Been using.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can stop you there, and obviously it's no different than our business. I mean, if we have two businesses, one that is and they're both, let's say, exactly 1 hour away. If one has 3 computers and one has 50 computers, rolling a truck to each one of those businesses has different costs. So I understand that Ninja has a lot more costs involved supporting the guy that has 15 computers versus the guy that has 1,500. So I get that. It just seems like they could say to them, okay, it's $5 an endpoint until you get to 50.
Right.
And while that might be pretty high, I mean, there's a motivator to get you to 50, but you can still play in the playground and you still get the full feature and support. Or, you know, I don't have the answer. It just seems like there seems to be this little bit of hump to get the guys onboarded. And obviously we'd love everybody in the family to be on there, because then we can all collaborate. So.
Right. And I would think too, you would want that if you start a small guy, if he's got 5 endpoints or 15 or whatever, and he builds to 50 and then over and over, he's going to stay loyal to you because you were loyal to him in the beginning. So, and that's the part. You know, when I started, I was a little under 50 endpoints. So I said, okay, the difference for me is not going to be that relevant. But you know, now I've moved into a different price tier, and but yeah, there should be something for. They should figure this out, how to get the smaller guy in, because that guy will stay, you know, when he gets over 50, when he gets over 100, it's the 1,500.
Exactly.
Well, and I don't want to pretend to answer business questions for Ninja either. That's just one thing that we've all, I think, we've run into with friends or partners or whatever in the Podnutz family. And then I also don't want to sit here and sound like that Ninja has never done anything wrong. I mean, I think we've all stumbled in our business, but at least in my perspective, from what I've had, when I've had a problem, even though I have a problem in their ticketing system that probably just got wrapped up about a week ago, that was probably about 6 or 7 months long, that I've been struggling with. But to their credit, they never abandoned me. They were always on top of it. They came up with some workarounds for me, actually wrote a script for me, you know, so you know, they were there. I understand that. It's just like when we have a problem with a client that we can't get fixed right away, that we try to at least give them some sort of patch or Band-Aid to get them through until we can get it done. You know, it's the exact same thing. So you just want a partner that's going to be there with you. And so far, Ninja has done a great job for me on that.
Now, going back to talking about the things that obviously people can use for RMM, right? There's other things out there too, things like Kabuto. Because I know I'm looking in the chat room and I'm noticing some of the prices per endpoint that people are charging. And in some respects, I would say, depending on what type of service you're offering, especially for something like Ninja, I think, $10 a month is kind of cheap. And again, I used to do that too. But if you are in the business of really taking care of a customer's computer from a standpoint of making sure they're patched, making sure they're protected, making sure that they have little to no problems, make sure there's regular cleanups where their computer is going to run the same every day for a whole year because you're protecting it, then a lot of times that would really be worth it to a customer. Let's face it. Here's a reality, and a lot of people don't think in this way, but people will always balk at price for certain things, and I get that. Part of it is our problem of not selling it. Because here's the thing, I can make a perfectly great cup of coffee in my home, no problem. But do you know how many people go through Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, wherever to get a $3, $4, $5 cup of coffee every single day? So if you were to charge something, you got to look at it as a value proposition. Maybe there are things that if you want to start off small, you can start off with something like Kabuto and use Kabuto to basically get you started in a residential market. And then you're just doing a couple of things. It's a little bit cheaper. And then maybe once you build that up, you can switch over to another service. But I'm with you guys. I think it's exactly as Rick said. I think if you get in on the ground floor, you'll stay because that's where your loyalty is going to lie, especially as that company is taking care of you over time. And that's what I think a lot of these companies, again, I would love to see that tiered approach where people are coming from let me start off and do this. But we've got to think about it from our position too. What is it we're trying to accomplish? What things do we want to take care of?
So. Well, and I don't, at least from my perspective, I'm not saying that Ninja is the only choice and the best choice for every company that's out there. And if you're a large MSP or very large, I don't know if I tell you to go to Ninja first. I'm not in that perspective, so I can't say that. But you might look at Autotask, or you might look at somebody else that has the full product suite all built together. Now, you can certainly do that with Ninja as they integrate with Autotask. If you'd like the Ninja RMM better, which I do, but it's with Jeff, we've said this on the show before. It's the difference between Craftsman tools and Snap-on tools or going down to the local hardware store and buying the 99-cent screwdriver. It's what works best for you in your business.
Absolutely. Now, Rick, you said you've been with Ninja for about a year, and what are the things? Let's kind of talk about. Let's change the topic a little bit. Let's talk about what an RMM service can do, or the RMM services we're using or have used. What can they do for a customer to take care of them?
Well, I always try to explain to the customer what this is mainly doing is basically it's preventive maintenance for you. A lot of things that come up,
your RMM platform should be saving you time and making you money, period. So, it should save you time every week. It should make you more proactive than reactive, and it should allow you to provide more information to the client to build a relationship. So, and what I mean by that is just like Rick touched on, monitoring and alerting. So get some smart reports. We get in there and fix, or we get RAID array reports from Ninja that says, hey, there's problems. So we can get there and fix them before there's downtime. And remember, that does two things. One, or three things, or four or five things. One, it makes us look really good to the client. Hey, we fixed it before it broke. Two, it makes the job a lot easier and less time consuming for us if we can fix it proactively than reactively, especially depending on how you bill, whether you bill hourly or you're an all-you-can-eat or retainer or all that kind of stuff. And three, it's just less stress. You're not reacting to a server being down and then total business being down. You're ahead of the game. But my short answer on any of this or any of the products that we're engaging with, it should save us time. Our AV should save us time because it should keep the computers clean so that we don't have to clean them, so on and so forth.
I agree with that. It's kind of like if you were walking around in your business and you're just waiting for things to break, and you just kind of got your eyes closed because you really don't know what's going on. You're waiting for that next phone call to come in versus you're able to basically monitor on a daily basis what is going on. You're able to set up and get alerts and get notified, like these guys said, before something happens. That way, if you do have to roll a truck and you've got a hard drive that maybe has an exorbitant amount of smart errors and it's showing up consistently, you go, okay, hey, I need to get out there and replace that drive. You know, this is important. And maybe it moves it up into, I need to do that now, or depending on what it is, if it's a workstation, maybe I can get to it next week. But it lets you kind of plan the way that you do things in your business. And so you're not just walking around going, waiting for the next thing to break that you got to run to. You're kind of waiting for, you're going through it, and you're able to, again, like these guys said, save your time.
You know, and add on to that, Alex in the chat just brought up a good point that I think Rick touched on earlier. You know, wherever you're going to start, you know, like I just put a list in the chat room of 25 different RMMs that are available that are, you know, just off the top of our head that are on this webpage. And there's more. But keep in mind, and I've been here, you know, what is the cost of once you get someplace that you want to switch? You know, it's not that hard to switch if you only have 25 or 50 clients, but when you're dealing with 1,000 endpoints, it's a PITA. So keep that in mind when you know, make your initial decision. I mean, I get it. It's tough at the beginning, especially if you're, and I'm not trying to be insulting. Let's just say you're a rookie tech. You're just starting out. Maybe you're not even sure what you need, not from even, you know, the tech, but maybe you just don't know from your business growth. I mean, that's why you listen to a show like this. You know, just be wary of that cost of the switch later on of any product, whether that's your AV or RMM, your backup solution, whatever you're using. So 2 cents. So 2 cents. Great point, Alex.
Well, I think a lot of people too, here's the problem. I talked about procrastination, right? And a lot of people will procrastinate, and there's constantly a contest out there where they're comparing and going, which is the best one? I don't know. This is the best one. Somebody else in this group will say, this is the best one. And another person will say, this is the best one. But here's the thing, John, you would probably agree with this. When you're just starting out, whether you're doing business, residential, doesn't really matter. And you've got a small amount of endpoints, it's very easy to switch that when you're at the 25, 50, 100 level. And then there comes a point, unless you're crazy like John, who loves to switch multiple times in a year.
That's not true. I deny that.
Not this year. We won't talk about last year. But anyways, or the year before that. So the reality is you can do that a lot easier. But at some point, in John, he loves to play around with this stuff. So for him, it's fun. But if you want to get to a certain point where you have so many endpoints, you need to make that decision and kind of stick with it. Here's the thing. None of these things are going to be perfect. Software is hard. And using software on the multiple different systems that we use it on, in the multiple different users that use these systems, is never going to be easy. Therefore, that's why we do what we do. It keeps people going. So, Rick, anything else on what, what things maybe that you'd like to see that would make your life easier using an RMM?
Well, I think I'm going to backtrack a little bit to harp on a point you just made. And when I don't want to use the term rookie tech, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what I was going to use, what I didn't use. And that was my own ignorance and not having enough experience, running an RMM. So I went with what I thought was the best. Right, what I was told was the best, which was way more than I needed. And so my advice to anyone, it may not be as cut and dry, but know what you need. And that's how you're going to figure out, what product to use. Because some products, you don't need, like, again, I did not need what I started with. I don't need it. I've grown, 3 times where I started, and I still don't need what I started with. So one of the things I'll say is, try to figure out what it is you do and how you're going to do it. And that's going to help you determine, and then trial these products, because all of them give you a trial. So take the time and trial them. And that's going to give you a better sense of, what you're going to be comfortable with. So I'm from the RMM that I have now. And one of the things John touched on this as well is Ninja's adding. Since the year I've been with them, they've added a ton of things. Excuse me, a ton of features. And I see their road say that there may be some things I need that I just haven't realized I need at the moment.
And I think that is no, but I wouldn't consider myself a rookie tech, but I sit in this chair every day because I learn as much and probably more than, maybe what I'm spewing out of my mouth. So yes, choosing your first RMM is not easy. And I've been where Rick is. Even with the size of my business as it was now, I used to be in Autotask endpoint management, and I really lost like that. And I was inches away from going to Autotask PSA, which now in hindsight to me would have been a big mistake because it's a lot more than I need. It's extremely complex. It's thousands of dollars. It's not as expensive as it used to be when I was looking at it now, but it is a lot of money just in training and hours in training on how to use the product. But then again, if I'm a large up MSP, $1 million MSP with multiple clients, Autotask, ConnectWise, those guys, they got it locked on for processes and all that. Or maybe even, what is it? Who used to be Lab Tech? Is it KS now? I don't remember.
Kaseya.
But the big guy, Kaseya, that might be the way to go. So again, to Rick's point, and I'm just sort of reiterating that's wise comments. It's tough to know what you need now, but yeah, definitely just don't jump on because when you haven't done a trial, when you haven't kind of tried to at least spend some time figuring out, and don't always choose the cheapest. That's not the best solution either.
And I think with some of the more complex RMM services that are out there, there is a time and a place for them, like these gentlemen have said. Here's the thing. If you look at inside most companies and they're using the bigger systems, they're not one-man shows or one-woman shows. Okay, they're not one-person shops. They basically have one person that's pretty much dedicated to watching that dashboard with however many endpoints that they have, because you've got stuff going on all the time. So we're kind of talking from a different level, but let me take this a step back even, because as I start to think about this, and this is a question we get all the time from people, is how do I get started in this RMM journey? Let's say you don't want to lock somebody in to a monthly contract, but what you do is, hey, when does your computer, or when does a person's computer, end user, when do they start noticing that their computer is slowing down and maybe not working as well? Let's just give it a number. Let's say 3 months. Okay. So at 3 months, you go, you know what we're going to do is we're going to basically give you a quarterly cleanup. We're going to remote in. We're going to take care of it. You're going to do all this manually. Okay. You're going to take care of that machine, and you're going to charge, let's just say a number, because I don't want to offend anybody. Let's just say $75 for the cleanup. Keep my number simple. Okay. That's 3 months. So every 3 months, you're going to get $75 from that customer. Their machine is going to be running well. It'll start to slow down almost up to that point where the next 3 months is, and you'll clean it up again, and so on and so forth. Then you say, you know what? We can even go a step above this. And what we're going to do is you get to the point where you've got a lot of those customers. Now you take those customers and you say, I want to automate this. Take those customers and you say, I want to automate this because this has cost me a lot of time to be able to do this. Now, for $75 for an hour's worth of work, that might be okay, but there's only so many hours in a day. So you get to a certain point where you all of a sudden turn around and go, you know what? We're going to charge you the same thing, but we're going to give you better service. We're going to give you antivirus. We're going to make sure that the updates are done on a regular daily basis. We're going to do daily cleanups. We're going to make sure that all your third-party software is updated and ready to go. Okay. Instead of just waiting every 3 months. And we're going to do this for basically what we've been charging you. It's going to be $25 a month. Now, a lot of people, if you step back and look at things and how they can be beneficial to the customer and look at the prices, this is kind of the way you have to think as a business owner. The mentality of nobody's going to pay me $25. a month to take care of their computer. That's not true. There's people that are paying that every month. There's thousands of people that are doing that. You just have to find those customers. But you can start off at a smaller place where maybe you're not locking into a system, and you can go and grow with it as you are growing and being able to provide the services. So don't ever be afraid to, start something now. Offer these services now. Get out there, and this is how it grows from the ground level. You got to start somewhere. John, did you have 1,000 endpoints when you first started off?
I did not.
So you had to grow it over time, right?
Yes.
And you also adjusted and fixed things as you went.
And made plenty of mistakes.
Exactly. Here's the thing. And I was saying this to somebody at work the other day. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. Let that sink in. If you're not making mistakes, then you're doing nothing. Okay? So here's the thing. We're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. And you learn from those mistakes. All right, John, let's go ahead. And I think that's enough of that. Let's go into, you wanted to talk about ticketing, correct?
Wasn't that part of the initial question? RMM and ticketing?
I don't know, but we're going to go with it anyways.
All right. Roger that. Roger that. Well, I think your RMM platform and your ticketing, depending on how you do your ticketing, go hand in hand. And the reason I say that is back to my comment on the RMM platform, that it should be something that saves you time. And the way that you get your RMM platform to work for you once you get the basics set up is to look at your ticketing. And what I mean by that is analyzing or reporting on your ticketing to find out what is happening or what you're reacting or what you're fixing the most, and then seeing if you can automate that repair or reduce the time it takes to do that repair. If you look in your tickets and you're finding that, oh my goodness, we're rolling all these trucks to fix either hard drive problems or RAID problems, why can't we get smart notifications in our RMM to reduce that? Obviously, smart doesn't catch everything, but if it caught 80% of it, you'd be making that much more money and making your customers that much more happy. So within your ticketing system, you need to be able to track what's happening so that you can do some reporting on that ticketing to find out where you need to make that continuous improvement.
Okay, that's good. I like that. And John, I know you've used different things. You've used QuickBooks for your invoicing and whatnot. Now ticketing, what are you using now?
I am using Repair Shopper for ticketing now.
Okay.
And I moved from an email platform, purely email platform, which worked great for me. But now with compliance, I need more reporting. And I did have some systems to get that out of my email. But now, and the reason I chose Repair Shopper is at this point, I don't use anything else that Repair Shopper does. But the cost of Repair Shopper at the most expensive level is the cost of a good ticketing system. So now if I want to start using more in Repair Shopper later to continuously improve, I can use their CRM platform. I can use their email and SMS integration. I can use their invoicing or their estimating. There's about a billion things in there that you can use. A lot of other guys are much more familiar with it than I am at this point. But so far, I've enjoyed the ticketing. It's given me exactly what I need. So I would give it a thumbs up.
Awesome. And Rick, what are you using for a ticketing system at this point?
I'm using Repair Shopper also, but I use it all. Like I use Repair Shopper for everything. I do my invoicing through there, estimates, everything. My scheduling, appointments, everything is. I use it to its.
All of them, not all of them. Just the primary ones. Obviously like smart, memory management, disk space, that kind of stuff. Just the heavy ones. But I do get, most of the time, I do get poked with an email, so I at least can see what's going on without having to go into the dashboard in Ninja to see that. But I do not have it auto-create a ticket on everything. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, I also use Repair Shopper. So I guess we
diverse group here.
We didn't have a very, very diverse group for sure. And I've liked Repair Shopper since I started using it. Again, they do what I like companies, a tiered platform that you can get started. You can basically get started for free. And I use it to the extent that I know how to use it. And there are other people out there that use it way more extensively than I do. But it helps me to be able to go back and find things about my customers that I've done for them in the past that I've forgotten about because it happens all the time. And I'm basically able to keep track of what I'm doing and what's working for me. Plus, I use automated invoicing and different things like that. So it makes my life easy, especially for RMM, the RMM platform. So somebody that now I say $25 or $25 a month. I was talking about earlier. I actually I charge yearly. And there's two different schools of thought on that. A lot of people are like, well, it's a little easier if it comes out in little chunks at a time. And quite honestly, if somebody wanted to quit halfway through, I would just give them their money back. It's not that big a deal to me. We can stop the service at any time, but it's easier from a billing standpoint, in my opinion, especially on the residential side. Probably not on the business side because those are going to be much, much bigger tickets. But on the residential side, it's easier just to go, here's the cost per year. Here's what it costs. Here's what's included. Everything's taken care of up front and, done. So, but there's different ways of doing it. So, but I love Repair Shopper for ease of use. And to be honest with you, I've looked inside Repair Shopper and it's like any other piece of software. I'm probably only using 10% of it.
Well, back to the question that Rick asked me about creating a ticket from notifications. I should probably expand on that because one of the cool things about Ninja and Repair Shopper is they integrate. So your endpoints or your assets from Ninja will come over into Repair Shopper so that you can do some tracking from one dashboard instead of having to be in two, and automatically create tickets for problems so that you and or your techs can work together on that. And that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. As far as Repair Shopper in its PSA form, it has a ton of integrations, anything from like we said, your RMM or even your Google Calendar to payment systems, to phone systems, to remote access systems. So there's a lot going on there.
We got a couple questions in the chat room, which are actually good when it comes to this. K Rosa says that I find Repair Shopper a little challenging. It offers me too much and creates confusion for me. That combined with my low volume, and I've opted not to use them. I would love to. I just need a quality tutorial. Here's the thing. Paperwork in business is hard for most. I hate it. It sucks. I'm just going to say it up front. For most of us that love fixing computers and solving problems, paperwork sucks. Here's the thing. If you start off with something like Repair Shopper and you start using it, you take a deep breath before every customer and basically start to input that information. Now, I took a stack of sheets that I had my customers fill out. And for those that can't see on video, it's a big stack. And I took all those and I manually entered them into Repair Shopper when I first started years ago. And then I've just added to that over time. Sometimes you'll go through and you'll get rid of some customers for whatever reason. Maybe they've moved or to a different state or something like that. But for the most part, everything pretty much stays in there. So now I input things on the fly. So the first time when I started it up, it was a manual process. It was horrible. But here's the thing, and it does change a little bit over time. They've had some updates where it changes and does things a little bit differently, but you can use the basics of it. You can put, most people can put in name, address, phone number, what the problem was. And there's a couple things that you can build in there as far as things you do all the time. It's like an email service, if you're using something like Outlook or whatever, where it remembers things. So when you're typing in something and you've got a service, or you can even build in services and say you do virus removal and cleanup, and you start pressing V, well, it comes in a drop-down list and you can automatically put it in. So again, once you set it up in the beginning, it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but don't let it overcomplicate you too much. Just look at it from a basic standpoint of I'm just putting information in. Same thing when you're doing your ticketing, you've got a ticket in there that you've created. The customer is going to get an email from that ticket. And then you're going to go every time you touch the computer and you're doing something, or you want to notify them of the next step. hey, I just did a diagnostic and this was what was wrong with it. We need to replace the hard drive. The hard drive is failing. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Is this something you'd like to do? Then they usually respond back, yeah, go ahead and do it. Okay, great. Now you've got that in your ticketing system where you've got this email back and forth of getting questions answered as you go. Hey, you know what? I told you it was going to be ready on Tuesday, but here's the thing. We're having a problem with one of the updates. We should have it done by Wednesday. And you can put that in there and send them off the information. Just think about it from a standpoint of if you had something that was being fixed and somebody was communicating to you, what type of information do you want from that person that's doing work for you? And if you look at it as a simple back and forth conversation and a simple, I'm just taking the basic information. Now, the basic information to me, especially for local businesses, is name, address, phone number, email address. Those things and everybody should be getting those anyways. I've gotten those from day one because that seemed like the most pertinent information. And if anybody balks at an email address, all I tell them is, I want as many ways to be able to contact you as I possibly can. And they, oh, that's all I've ever got. Oh, okay. But most of the time, people don't balk at that. We just don't ask. And I know there's a lot of businesses out there that don't ask for things like email addresses.
Well, I think you're getting to the point where you could apply that to anything, whether it was repair shop or anything else, a ticketing system or RMM. It's always a lot of work at the beginning. And then it's continuously, it's just like running your business. You know, if you want to improve and make more money, you have to continuously push. You have to continuously push to get more out of any system. So yes, somebody in the chat said, well, maybe I just need to bite the bullet and get on it. Yes, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Period.
And, you know, here's the thing. He also said, I use Word to create my invoices. Yep. Did that in the very beginning. Absolutely did that. That's what I did. And here's the thing I figured out and just basically hunkered down a little bit and got Repair Shopper. And Paco LeBron is probably more of a whiz at this thing than I am. Okay. And I've been using it longer, but he's invested more time and effort into it. But the thing is once I figured out it's actually easier doing it in Repair Shopper than it is on a Word document, it was taking me more time on a Word document. And plus, if I wanted to communicate, now I'm having to open an email. I've got to open Outlook or Gmail or whatever I'm using. Then I got to communicate with them. There's a lot of cool things you can set up in Repair Shopper. And to be honest with you, I have not used a lot of the things that I should. And that's something I need to rectify over time as soon as I get a little less busy.
Well, yeah, Paco's a great example of that, as somebody that has taken, and pushed and pushed and pushed and keeps pushing Repair Shopper to get more out of it. So, and yeah, he takes me to school every time I talk to him about it.
Well, the last meetup I had with you guys, we added a bunch of stuff. So I had some check boxes that I can put on my tickets now for things and information that I probably should be capturing that would make my life a lot easier.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, most of it, I took it step by step. I started out I got Repair Shopper to really do invoicing more so than ticketing when I started. I wasn't really, the things I love is actually the email communication back and forth, because if you send that email, you have a record of it and the customer replies. You have a record of that as well. It all goes into the ticketing page. So that's one of the things I love. I do a lot of field work. So I get, when I go out, I get folks to sign an intake form, basically that's electronically they sign. I try to do as little paper as I can, so I can get them to sign it right on the computer, and I email it to them. So they've got a lot of great features. I'm still growing. Like I say, I'm hoping I'm using it to its full extent, but I'm sure I'm not. But I'm using it a lot for everything, and that has become, that is probably the most indispensable tool I'm using in my business.
The other thing I think too is when you're looking at these systems, and I've said this before, this comes down to whenever you're doing anything in your business that is what we would call the back office, and this would be back office. Things like marketing, things like paperwork, things like reaching out to your customers periodically. The problem is we get so busy in our day-to-day activities that we never take the time. And here's the thing. You will probably, this is for most people, not everyone, you will probably never take the time unless you schedule it. So schedule an hour a week to where you're going to dive into whatever it is you need to learn or use. And you're going to set aside a time, you're going to put it in your calendar, and you're going to say, at this time, for this hour, I'm shutting everything else off. I'm going to concentrate on fixing this and making it work for me and making it work for my business. And if you could do that, hey, 4 hours a month. I guarantee you, if somebody spent 4 hours a month doing something, whatever it was, they would be better at it. And guess what? Even if you're not done the first month, the second month, now you've got 8 hours invested. 8 hours invested into something to learn how to do it, especially when we're talking about paperwork, setting it up for your business. This is good. This will help you long term. Then these are things that will make your life easier in the long run. Do we have any final thoughts from either of you guys on things that we should be thinking about when it comes to RMM or ticketing?
I was just going to type it in the chat, but it'd be better said that, I'm not saying any of this is easy. I struggle with finding the time just like anybody else, when you're battle day to day. But usually what I find and experience has taught me over all the time that I've done this is if you spend the time to do it, usually in the long run, you save time and make more, period. I mean, you can almost cast that as a commandment in stone.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And I think the other thing I'll add, it can be intentional. We need the paper, we need the paperwork, we need the ticketing, we need the invoicing. So just, if you're going to do it, just, realize it's not going to all get done immediately. Just take your time, piece by piece, but you have to still get with it.
Very good. Yep, I agree. All right, let's take another quick break to thank some folks out there. And then we've got a couple of emails that we'll get through and answer some questions. If you would like to support this show and you like the information that we're bringing you, and we try to bring you the best information that we possibly can to help you think and grow in your business. And that's what it's all about. As John had said earlier, we all learn things from doing shows like this, or even being a part of the live show, being in the chat room, listening to the show in the car. I'm learning things from all the time, and in reactions in different things that people will send me, I see that. I see the email questions. I see the stuff that people are doing in their businesses. And so it helps everyone. But if you'd like to support the efforts that we put forth here, I would ask you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. You just give $1 an episode. Now that's only when we actually have an episode that comes out. It's $1, which is less than a decent cup of coffee. $1 an episode, no more than $4 a month. We do no more than 4 shows. So even if we do some more shows than that, I always make sure those are bonuses. So anyways, no more than $4 a month. And it helps keep the show alive and keeps us doing what we do and being able to upgrade equipment and different things like that. So plus pay for the cost. Believe it or not, there's costs in podcasting, even though it can be fairly inexpensive. But sometimes when you pay for things to make life a little easier. And I want to thank our newest Patreon supporters, Dwayne Ellery, Alexander Albert, and Matt Nordacre. I want to thank all of our other Patreon supporters for your continued support. Appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you that you are helping out the podcast. All right, let's go ahead and answer a couple of emails, or let's see what we have for emails. Just throwing this out there, since you seem to be selling Windows 10 so hard. Yeah, LOL. Not so much anymore, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This happened to me 10 times today. Okay, just 5, but still. Brad, you would make a perfect manager. Anyways, I wrote up a little KB for myself to remember what to do. And this is a Windows 10 change network from public to private. And so I've heard of this happening before, and several people have talked about it, where on the Windows 10 sometimes I think it's doing it on a update, or it's doing it just arbitrarily, but it'll basically move from public to private network or vice versa. Is that what you've seen, John?
Yeah, I've seen that, and that comes with 1803, I believe, and some of the patching there. And I'll add on to Mr. Torrey's comments. If you do a fresh install of 1803, let's say you build the media, it will actually disable SMB and CIFS 1.0. So if you could connect to something and you do a fresh install and now you cannot connect to it, it is probably because of that, meaning like a NAS device or something that uses a web interface or a copy machine that is using or may only have the ability to use SMB1 or CIFS1. You have to go into the programs and files and add that back in the support for that.
Okay.
Programs and features, I think, right? Programs.
Yep, you were correct. Thank you. Yeah, I think they call it Windows features now, but it's building under program. Yep, you were absolutely right.
And I will say, so the fun joke was, since I'm selling Windows 10 so hard, and yes, I've been an advocate of Windows 10 since it came out. I've never really had an issue up until now. And so for those that don't know, if you've ever had a camcorder or any type of recording equipment that does video or whatever, and you've plugged that into your computer, you'll remember back in the day, remember kids when they had the little thing called FireWire. Macs came out with it first, and I think a few years ago they moved to Thunderbolt and got away from the FireWire. But you had FireWire 400, FireWire 800, and it was really cool to get a Mac that would have, FireWire 800. Well, the mixer I have is a FireWire mixer. The reason for that is it can record up to 16 channels simultaneously. You need the bandwidth to be able to do that. I do believe they actually make some USB mixers like that nowadays. Here's the thing. There is a driver, a FireWire driver from Windows 7, which in Windows 8 and Windows 10, they call it a legacy driver. And up until this point, when I just redid my system, I was able to add the legacy driver back in. Well, lo and behold, I don't know what 1803 did or if it was something I did, but I can no longer, even though it is a digitally signed driver from Microsoft, you can get it from their website. I've downloaded it, I put it in, it's signed, I can see it, it installs, but then when I go into Device Manager, I can't add it.
So it's digitally signed for Windows 10?
That's a good point, John. I don't know.
Well, it's out of my mouth, but the reason I think like FireWire never took out on the PC side is because the licensing costs were so high. So I just wonder if something's changed now that it's so legacy, that particular driver, they just said, we're done.
It could be. Now, this was created back in Windows 8 and 8.1, and that's still what it says on the website when you go to pull it down. So they said from other people that have used this, they, like I said, I've been using it for years, where I've been able to use the legacy driver in Windows 8 and Windows 10. Just can't see it in the Device Manager when I pull it up. So I was able to, again, this is where we solve problems. I was able to trick the system. It's stupid, but it works for right now. We'll see what happens. Because what it does is when I go to start my mixer up, it freezes it on a screen. And so to get by that, all I did was I unplugged the FireWire cord, turn the mixer on, it boots up, goes into what it needs to. I plug the FireWire card back in, plug the FireWire port back in, and then I'm able to start up my software. And it's not real smooth because it takes a minute. And it goes, hey, I can't see your device, and then all of a sudden you go hit retry, and it goes, oh, now I can see it. And so, anyways, it's a clunky solution, but it works. So this is the first time I've had something major in Windows 10. And I think it's just a lot of the safety features that they built into Windows 18 or Windows 10 1803. So, and I've tried turning off driver sign management and all that kind of stuff, and nothing. So, anyways, that's where I'm at with that. But I'm still an advocate for Windows 10, and I like it. Brad, just to let you know.
He likes it too.
Yes. No, he hasn't switched over yet. I told him, I said, Anthony needs to build him a system.
Last show we did together, he's running out of time.
I know. He's still on Windows.
I got a love-hate relationship with it too. It's mostly love. There's a lot of stuff like stop add software and crapware to my machine without me asking every time we do an update and all that fun stuff.
But yeah, true. I agree with you there.
And the worst is it resets everything when it updates. That drives me nuts. But it's the gift and the curse.
Right.
Windows is the gift and the curse. So
that's right. Good way of looking at it.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So this email comes from our patriarch, door-to-door geek, and he sent me this the other day. It's top Linux distros for computer repair on opensource.com, and we will have the link in the show notes. 5 specialized Linux distributions for computer repair. And a lot of new people might not know what these are, or even some of us old timers might not remember using these things. But there are some things out there when you can't do something on a Windows machine or a Mac for some reason. There's a lot of times you can spin up a Linux distro and it will help you do your job. As a matter of fact, if you think about a lot of the tools that you use nowadays, most of those have some sort of Linux distro in the background, especially the boot up disk and stuff like that. We've been using it even if you didn't know that's what you were using. But I thought this was an interesting link.
Well, what we're talking about is like a tech boot disk is really in simplest form. And I think actually Rick developed this one that's on the list because it's called Renactus. I can't say it, but it's almost Renactus. If you look at the list, I'll put it in the chat right now, Rick.
That's funny. Okay.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, what are you guys using? You guys using any of them? Is there any Linux distro you guys jump on all the time, or anybody in the chat that you think is like the best thing since sliced bread that I should be looking at? Because I don't use a lot of I don't have a Linux distro that I grab for troubleshooting.
John, I have the only time I ever spin up a Linux distro anymore that's not in some sort of form of a tool. I have a bench machine behind me that has a secondary drive that has Ubuntu on it. I will spin that up if I cannot see a drive in Windows, especially some of the external drives that I've had to take apart. And there's been times for whatever the way they do the firmware or the way they do the connectors on there, I've got to be able to slave it to something USB. And so I will put it into the Linux box. And a lot of times it'll see the information and I can drag and drop it and get the information off there. But that's really the only thing I can think of that I've used over time. Lately anyways. Probably in the last 5 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm the same. But the only thing I've used is the Ubuntu. I did try the backup Conzilla for a little bit, but I didn't stay with it. But that's about it. I think the only I'm in the same boat as you, Jeff. If can't find something or can't see a drive on Windows or Mac or something,
so very flawlessly too. Unless you press the wrong button or you have it, save all the files that you don't need saved. But anyways,
which kind of leads us into another boot disk, which is Windows based that I do use a lot. And I think it's next email.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Very good. Okay. So it says, hey guys, I wanted to share this with you. Marvin and Matt on the Pro podcast mentioned this tool a while ago. Marvin and Matt, who's that? Oh yeah. I'm Podnutz Pro. Yeah, we love those guys over there. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been listening to Marvin and Matt's show for a while now. And, since the beginning, really. Actually, I listened to it way before Marvin ever took it over. But here's the thing. Marvin is really getting some good companies to come on there and share the information about their stuff. And he's asking the right questions. He's getting the right answers. And so we're able to learn about other companies out there that we might want to use their products or service. So definitely, if you're not listening to Podnutz Pro, go over there and listen to that. And when they're not talking about different companies, they're usually telling Star Wars stories or Star Trek stories or something like that. So, but they're fun to listen to. They banter.
And they do have a lot of good stories from the trenches. If you're a business, yeah.
Yeah, I was being facetious on the other part, but they
talk about all that.
It comes up periodically. All right, so it says, let's see. So he says, I've been wanting to get it for a while. The full version with the commercial license, which is what we should get, good on you, that is true, is $199. So that's why I keep putting it off. But when the right job comes along, I'll get it. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is to you guys is that they offer a fully functioning reviewer's copy to bloggers, podcasters, etc., i.e. you guys. I thought you might appreciate that and be interested in taking them up on this offer. So I will definitely check that out and hopefully get back to you guys with maybe we can get a link or something for that to get you that information. And yeah, maybe we can work out a discount or something like that.
And what he's talking about is active boot disk, and which is a product I use all the time. But keep in mind, this gets really confusing with the company that makes it, called Lsoft, because the product as a technician that you actually want to purchase is called Active Data Studio. And you don't find it at lsoft.net. You find it at www.boot-disk.com. And that's in the show notes. And I just put it in the chat. Because if you just go to Lsoft and look at Active Boot Disk, it won't say anything about Active Data Studio. So, and Active Data Studio is awesome. Just quickly, like the top 5 things that it does. It has a partition manager. It does have imaging software, which I've used, which is actually very nice. Partition tools, password recovery. I mean, it's got a ton in there. It's got a feature kind of like Fabs. If you're a Fabs user, I wouldn't switch to this, but it does have a feature like that. And you can boot right from a USB or an ISO that you create without any problem and get to all these features. It's actually very nice.
Okay, cool. I need to check that out. I know, John, I've heard you talk about it before, and I just, again, one of those things. I love to test this stuff out and just have not yet. So,
well, to swing back to B over at Podnutz Pro, the one reason he brought it up is he uses it, and so do I, for disk wiping, because it creates a certification PDF that you can then email, and you can log into your ticket for proof and for your documentation. So that just for that alone, and the job it does on that, it's worth the money.
Awesome. That's very cool. Let's see. And it says, thanks for continuing doing a great job on the show. You're welcome. Regards, George. Thank you, George, for that email and for bringing that up. We will definitely check that out, and we'll have links to those products. And he brought up a good point, too, is that if there is a commercial license available as a business, when you're making money in your business, you're charging a customer to do a job, you should be buying the commercial license. I know we've all done it. We've used that free license, that free home user license to do a job. But the reality is you should be using commercial licenses to do that and be legit. And just remember, what goes around comes around. So, that's all I'll say about that. All right. Any lasting thoughts? I think that was the end of the emails. You guys got anything to add?
I want to put out a question.
I
want to put out a question, and this doesn't have to be answered right now. Maybe you guys can drop me an email. I'll put it on the Facebook page. I have an interesting problem I'm trying to fix for a client. It's something silly. The monitor will not wake up from sleep. So I've tried to update the driver. I've turned sleep off on the computer. So just the monitor goes, when the monitor goes to sleep, if it sits for a short time, you can open it up. Sits for more than like an hour, you shake it or you tap, to get the screen up. It'll come up for a quick second, blip on, and then go back to black. So, and you can see that the monitor's active. You can see the light change. I don't know if if you have a monitor that's an orange light when it's sleeping and blue when it's on. So, but it just won't get video. So my thinking is it's not the monitor, something coming from the video portion, so the computer portion of it. So if anyone has run into this, I tried the S3. I'll just run down what I've tried. So, I've tried switching the power state from S1 to S3. I've updated the driver to the latest version. I've backdated the drivers and tried it that way to see if it was maybe something that a newer driver was, incompatible with. And I can't get it. I cannot get this to work. For some reason, after an hour, the screen will not come back on.
What about system BIOS?
Right, I've changed the S1 and the S3 state, right?
Not changing. I'm talking about updating the actual BIOS in the system. Is that an option?
I
would check that for sure.
Up one. I'm pretty sure we went up one.
Okay.
All right. So I would say, have you tried a different monitor?
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I told the client because I've been back twice. This is someone who called me to fix a couple of things, and this was like one of those things where, by the way, can you tell me why this doesn't? So I updated the drivers. I figured that was the problem, and she sends me a message back, hey, everything else you've done is working great, but the monitor still won't come on. So I went back again, just, as a courtesy to try to get it right. Same problem. This is when I switched the states on the drive. Excuse me, in the BIOS. I'm just not getting this to work.
So you're saying the monitor does wake up, meaning that the light changes from amber to green or whatever it does, but you just don't get any display? Or is the monitor not changing at all?
No, the monitor it's almost like it's almost like when it refreshes it'll pop up and then the screen will go black again. But you can tell on the monitor she has, and it's happened the desktop, wherever was left on the screen when it went to sleep, you'll see that, and then it'll just go back down and stay black. But the indication from the monitor, right? That's what I'm going to try tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
Hey, before you do it, Rick, that's a great thought. Before you go there tomorrow, if it has the problem, try to remote in when she says it's black, and just see if you can remote in, like through TeamViewer or through Splashtop, and see if you can see.
No, you can see. I've done that.
You've done that. So yeah.
I've done that.
You've done that. So yeah.
I did it yesterday. Okay, so you log in, you can see everything. Right. Monitor cable, the VGA cable, and put it right back in, and picture comes up.
Yeah, it's a monitor.
Okay.
From a hardware standpoint, I'm just telling you.
Here's what I would try. You switch from VGA to something else. Does it have a DVI port or an HDMI port or something where you could swap it to something else? Just try a different input on them. Yeah, just try that.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes that'll work temporarily. You'll still, it's usually something is failing on the PCB board version of where the cables plug in and stuff. Usually that's starting to go bad. So those are the signs of what you see when it comes to monitors.
Okay. It sounds right. I've actually never run into that problem before, so it was just weird. So
I've got.
Well, if it's possible, switch the monitor with a different one and just see.
Yep. Yeah, then you'll know for sure. That's the easiest way to.
If it's possible at the office, if they have to, but
take one with you.
No, the problem is I'm going to bring it here because it's got to sit for an hour. So I'm not going to sit there now, because if I do it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it comes right back on. It's when it's longer. For some reason, it sleeps a little longer. And now, and keep in mind, I turn sleep off on the actual computer. So only the thing that's happening is that the monitor goes down. But I stayed 30 minutes, and I was like, I'm not going to sit here for an hour looking at a black screen to see if it comes back up. So,
gotcha. All right. Well, with that, I think we are at the end of the show. John, if you want to let people know where they can tickle your fancy, let them know.
I try not to leave my fancy hanging out in public, but if you want to give it a shot, it's john@mavengroup.net. And everybody remember, we are not going to have a show next week.
Correct. We're not going to have a show next week. Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
All right. And happy 4th to everybody.
All right. And part of the reason we're not having a show, actually, the reason we're not having a show is it's my 29th anniversary. So, yeah, I won't be podcasting that day. Because I want to make it to the next day. All right, Rick, if you could give us, just let people know where they can find you at.
Oh, you can find me at rick@renactus.com. Happy anniversary to you, Jeff. Thanks. And happy 4th to everyone.
All right. If you'd like, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, over at podnutz.com, CRP Live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room, where we have lots of interaction and people talking back and forth, which is good. It adds to the show. You can send an email to podnutz@podnutz.com, and we will answer that on the air. Or you can leave a voicemail if you want your voice right next to ours at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.